A 12-year-old boy named Jaden was kicked out of school on Monday. He didn't start a fight or bring a gun to school or set a teacher on fire or any of the things that I used to do. Instead, he had a message of hate on his backpack that the school claimed was disruptive to the classroom environment. And that message of hate was four little words printed below a coiled snake on a yellow patch sewn onto his backpack. It said, "Don't tread on me," or three little words if you count like Joe Biden. Now, the school claimed the Gadsden flag has its origins in slavery and the slave trade. And to me, it sounds like the Vanguard Academy, which, by the way, is not far from me. It's down in Colorado Springs. I'm one town up the highway in Monument. It's about 20 minutes from here. It sounds like the Vanguard Academy needs a remedial civics lesson, and Jaden's feisty mom was on hand to provide one. She actually, at the school meeting, I believe this was on Tuesday, or Monday or Tuesday of this week, she videotaped the conference with her son Jaden, and the results are great. We'll post the link along with the video here. What was she did? Yeah, she videotaped the meeting with the school officials, and she very calmly made the point about what the Gadsden flag is actually about. The school, for its part, kept making excuses like kids can't display messages referring to drugs, tobacco, alcohol, or weapons, none of which are on the Gadsden flag.
So far, so good.
Yeah. And maybe the funniest part, the school's really getting desperate at this point. They were totally flailing and referred to a study by a graphic design scholar. This is my go-to for serious historical research, who claimed that the Gadsden flag can be seen as a symbol of intolerance and hate or even racism. And by the way, I forgot to do intros. Hi, I'm Steve Green. This is Right Angle, and that's Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. Bill, would you care to provide a little civics lesson as to what the Gadsden flag is about for our idiots in public education?
Yes, the Gadsden flag is a warning against tyranny. It's a warning. It's not an action. It's not a strike. It's not aggression. It's a warning. It's like, Mom, Stevie keeps hitting me. It's a warning. And it's basically saying, if you continue with this aggressive behavior towards us, we're the aggrieved party here. We're not the people doing the bullying. We're the people who are being bullied. That's what the Gadsden flag says. The Gadsden flag says, the Gadsden flag essentially is a short version of fool around and find out. And it is actually pretty clear. One of my favorite things ever, I saw this somewhere around 2003 or 2004. I forget the name of the guy who did it, but a graphic design guy. And basically, it's the exact same flag. And instead of the snake being coiled, it's striking and its fangs are out. And below that, it says, "Too late." And
I've got to look for this.
It's unbelievably great. It's just great. So what the Gadsden flag is not even a flag of rebellion. It is a warning saying, we're not going to take this forever. We are looking out for both of our interests here. We don't want to get hurt anymore, and we don't want to have to hurt you, but we will if we have to. Now, what the teachers see it as, and probably appropriately enough, is they see it as a sign of rebellion against authority. It's a defiance of other people enforcing their will upon you. So needless to say, as the tyrants that they are, they find this horrifically offensive, and it's got to go. But this is actually closely related to my topic. We don't know what our topics are on this format now, that we just bring them and react to them. But this kind of forget that. Let me just close with this. Every time you make an effort to protect children from something traumatic, now I'm not saying you shouldn't protect them from real traumatic things. Kids should not be exposed to the aftermath of a suicide bombing or anything like that. But every time you try to protect them from having their little feelings getting hurt, what it does to their brain is it just keeps lowering their threat response. So instead of making them more resilient, it makes them weaker. It makes them more and more and more hysterical, more and more sensitive, more and more neurotic all the time. And so if schools are saying, well, we don't want to expose our kids to this because they may find it troubling, it's like, well, you better start exposing children to something that is mildly troubling now, because when they get out of this classroom, they're going to be confronted with things that are actually troubling. And the one thing we're seeing throughout society now is that people are not equipped to handle this. I can't tell you how many times I've seen police body cam footage of just a simple traffic stop or something with some Gen Z person, and they're basically saying, I need to see your driver's license and registration. Why? Well, because it's the law. I need you to see it. Well, explain to me why you need to see it. And they won't stop. Steve, they won't stop. Well, I'm not going to, this is really unfair. And you should treat me with more respect. And why is it that I have to do, and it's just ongoing, perpetual adolescence and childhood. And I suspect that this must be their goal because there's no other explanation for it, given the amount of data there is. So I say, what was it? What was that condition you read earlier, that it can't contain something?
Let me double check. Drugs, tobacco, alcohol, or weapons.
Well, ma'am, I've looked carefully at the flag. Not that it requires a great deal of intent observation, but I don't see any of those 4 things on here. So why don't you just go back into the little commie hole that you crawled out of and let this kid wear what he's wearing? Because God knows if we went through that school, people like the 3 of us, we could find hundreds of things that are infinitely more destructive, hateful, and racist than the Gadsden flag.
And just to be clear, despite the school's claim of fears of a disruptive environment or anything like that, from what I've read in these various reports, none of the kids complained. It was the teacher and the administration that complained. They're the weaklings in this case, not the 6th or 7th graders in this story. And Jaden, as I said,
that's right,
12 years old. If you click on the video of the conference he and his mom had with the school. This young man is just composed and cool during the whole thing. Really a tribute to good parenting, just as much as having that Gadsden flag is. Yeah, Bill.
I just realized one thing. I was going to say several years from now, but I bet it's less time than that. You will soon begin to see this exact same argument played out with the American flag. I guarantee it. Yeah. I guarantee it.
In fact, I think I've read a couple of stories where it's already happening in places like San
Francisco.
Francisco.
It's intimidating, and students find it distressing and alarming that that this banner of white supremacy is being flaunted in their face.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe one of the more sad parts of this story is the school's director is a retired Air Force officer who lists his interests, and I think this comes from LinkedIn, as diversity, equity, and inclusion. You probably could have guessed that, huh? His name
Those
is
are his
Jeff.
interests?
Be willing to bet you he's not a fighter pilot from the Air Force.
That would be my guess, too. His name is Jeff Yoakum. I wouldn't be surprised if the kids call him Captain Buttmunch or something like that. Scott, according to author Connor...
That's his tactical call sign.
According to author...
Okay, Buttmunch, tactical right.
I got to get control of my show here. Well, we'll try. According to Connor Boyack, who's been helping the family, Jaden wanted to stand up for his non-racist beliefs. So after Jaden was kicked out of class, he asked his mom to take him to a local news station to get the word out. So they went to the Colorado Springs NBC affiliate. I can't remember their call letters. And they said no, they weren't interested in this story about a kid getting kicked out of class for displaying a patriotic colonial-era flag. So, Scott, I guess my question to you is, because I go to you for my journalism angle. You're a trained professional. Whatever happened to that old journalistic credo about comforting the afflicted and afflicting the comfortable?
Well, the first thing that occurs to me is if they had ignored that patch on his backpack, nobody would have said anything. Nobody would have even noticed it.
Streisand effect, yeah.
So they actually drew attention to it and made a big deal of it, either in complete ignorance of the effect that would have and making, actually rallying people in support of it, or because they thought in some way they needed to make an example of this kid. It reminded me of a couple of things. When I was in high school, at one of the high school dances, the principal of our high school, who was otherwise a nice guy, forbid the DJ from playing Pink Floyd's "We Don't Need No Education" at a dance. Now, first of all, it's not a good dancing song.
No,
but
that's not what you listen to Pink Floyd for.
Yeah, but he made a big deal about how, this was inappropriate in a school setting and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, thanks for making the point of the song. But That and like I said, otherwise nice guy. That and when I used to work years ago for a local affiliate of a major cable company, my new supervisor. On a Friday, on Fridays we were allowed to wear. It's dress down Friday, and so at the office we could dress casually. We could wear T-shirts, and people wore all kinds of T-shirts with their favorite bands on them or whatever, So I had a lot of T-shirts that had various things about Jesus on them at the time, and this one was a rather reserved shirt that just had a picture on the back of a cross. And in little letters around the cross, it said, "Take up your cross and follow me." And then there was like a Bible reference to the passage where it says that. Well, anyway, this new supervisor comes along and tells me that I can't wear that shirt. And I said, well, I thought it was casual Friday and we could all wear T-shirts. Look at that lady over there with the Ozzy Osbourne biting the head off a bat shirt, or something like that. And she's like, no, that's not appropriate. You can't wear the shirt. And so I kind of persisted gently but politely in saying that I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to. And she basically said, look, either you remove that shirt or you go home. And I said, well, I don't have another shirt with me. And I don't think it's right that some form of speech is being prohibited in the workplace when no other form of speech is being prohibited. And so I went home for the rest of the day. I lost a day's
Good
pay
for you.
And went home. And there's a happy ending to the story. Not too long after that, she fired me. So things went well there. But anyway, it was another one of those situations where if she had not drawn attention to it, it would have been a nothing. Like nobody would have even said anything about my shirt. Nobody would have noticed it. That was just one of my T-shirts, and I didn't have a lot of T-shirts at the time. So, the weird thing about the Gadsden flag, and you need to know a little bit about snakes to appreciate this, is that even venomous snakes are not hunting man flesh. So,
but once they get a taste for it.
Venomous snakes and all snakes want to hide and stay away from human beings. Human beings are large. Snakes are generally not. Human beings can move pretty quickly, and snakes want to get out of their way as quickly as possible. So the idea that a snake on this "don't tread on me" thing is some sort of an offensive threat. Basically, the story is, to get bit by a snake, you almost have to step on it, or actually step on it.
Yeah.
To get you have to. Yes, you have to taunt a snake in order to get bit. If you give them their space, they're not going to bite you, even if they rattle their rattle, if they're a rattlesnake or whatever. They're trying to avoid you. So it is such a passive shirt that basically says, look, I'm harmless to you unless you step on me, which, as Bill said, it's a warning against tyranny, but it's not an offensive warning. It's a defensive warning that's basically saying, I'd rather just be left alone. So I don't know why teachers do silly things like this. And I guess really we should send her all of us should send her copies of We Don't Need No Education. We Don't Need No Thought Control.
Indeed.
Hey, Steve, can I add just a couple things just real quick? First of all, Scott, I'm just curious, when that woman you were talking about, when she saw the cross on the back, did she go like this? It's just a curiosity point for me.
I'd rather not answer that question because it brings back horrifying memories.
And the second thing is, I remember seeing The Wall in theaters. It was 79, somewhere around there. And I remember they started singing that song, and I turned to the person next to me, and they said, "We don't need no education." I said, "Sounds like you're not getting not much of an education already, We don't need no education."
Right. The irony. Actually, maybe snakes are a weapon. I forgot about the Second Battle of Trenton during the Revolutionary War when the colonials threw snakes at the British lines. No, I made all of that up.
It's not.
Would be a sight.
Get these darn dreadful snakes off of my darn dreadful fort.
Anyway, I should mention, I've lived in or right next door to Colorado Springs for almost 30 years. I moved to Colorado Springs from San Francisco in 1994, so yeah, I'm getting old. And the thing you have to know about Colorado Springs is it is the hub of conservatism in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah.
The state GOP holds its presidential convention in Colorado Springs every 4 years to choose who we're awarding our delegates to for the nomination. It's home of Focus on the Family, a conservative Christian organization that's famous around the country and even the world. It is not just the most conservative city in Colorado, it's the largest conservative city in Colorado. We may not be as big as Denver, but we've got 700,000 people or more. It's a good sized town. It's very Republican. Democrats can't really get elected here. In fact, our first non-Republican mayor in decades was just elected, and he's an independent who basically got elected because, well, when you've got one party rule, you get a lot of corruption, and it was time to clean house a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if this kind of thing can happen at a school in Colorado Springs, the heart of red state America, it can happen anywhere. You've got to check out what's going on in your schools. Get involved in your school boards, whether it's a school where your kids, your grandkids, or just kids you care about are attending, because this rot runs deep and it runs everywhere. So get involved, all right? Okay, that's your right angle on that. I'd like to give a shout out to Jaden and his mom for being smart and courageous in this. Keep it up.
Amen.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.